But I'm curious to what you think going into the Super Bowl. There's a ton of storylines, right? And we already
Mhm.
mentioned that all these storylines will be drawn out, they'll be talked about going into the game. So what's kind of one storyline that you're looking at that isn't getting a whole lot of press, isn't getting a whole lot of attention?
Yeah, man, now that stumped me. I got to get back on my toes here because I was gonna say, everybody's talking about the outside linebackers and like the tackles being out. That's the overplayed
Yeah.
storyline. To me, it's like, do they try to blitz? They've blitzed so much. I think they were the highest blitzing team since they played the Chiefs the last time. And Patrick Mahomes is just the guy you don't blitz.
Mhm.
His numbers, his EPA, whatever analytics you want to use, is ridiculous against the blitz. So, do the Bucks? Does Todd Bowles, who likes to blitz, does he continue doing that, or do they try to give him a different look and mix it up and try a bunch of different things in that game? So how much Todd Bowles decides to try and blitz Patrick Mahomes is a storyline that I'm looking forward to. And outside of that, I'm just curious how aggressive the Chiefs are going to be. I know with the Carlton Davis stuff, so much was made of that there's going to be so much chess match and all this stuff going on in the first, couple of series are all scripted. So I'm looking forward to that end of the first quarter, that second quarter where you always see the Chiefs adjust and do really well because they're outside of their scripted plays. They know the position, the personnel groups that, the Tampa's going to run against certain looks that they have and what the formations are. It's the stuff they're studying on the sideline in the first quarter. Like, okay, this is what we're doing and this is how we're going to combat it. And they're so good at that first adjustment based on like that we see that in the second quarter of all their games. That's their quarter because they get all that information and they can execute really, really quickly. So second quarter, I guess the third
Mhm.
offensive drive for the Chiefs is where they would really kick it in and they know what the Bucks are doing. But yeah, for me, the number one is just how much does Todd Bowles try and blitz Patrick Mahomes? Because I don't think they're going to get pressure with four. That's a hot take that everybody else is
Yeah.
saying. They're too good with the jets, the ghost action, the jet sweep. Andy Reid does too much of that stuff to get those ends thinking when they feel like they are at a disadvantage there. They'll move them out of the pocket and they'll do different things. It's not going to be just sitting back at a 7-step drop and hoping that a backup tackle can, take on somebody. So they won't put those guys in that position. But yeah, I'm curious how aggressive Bulls gets after Mahomes.
I think that that's very interesting too because I've mentioned this on the podcast too. There's no way that the Chiefs, don't try to utilize Patrick Mahomes' hard count. They don't, use jet sweeps like that. Those guys, those defensive front four, are gonna have to sit back and they're gonna have to be honest because Patrick Mahomes is the best in the league at drawing guys off sides. They're either gonna
Yeah.
jump off sides or they're gonna be a step slow, and that's what it's really gonna come down to. And I think the aggressiveness on defense
That's
is
a great point.
very interesting. To look at as well. And I think the offensive aggressiveness is something that could be interesting to look at because usually in Super Bowls, the two teams are trying to feel each other out for a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that changes with them playing in Week 12 if they kind of already have an idea. I think that might have something to do with it. But I'm curious to see if the Chiefs come out and they come out fire and they come out throwing deep balls, or if they do try to kind of slow play it a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's an advantage almost for the Bucks that they didn't have to go through all of the Super Bowl stuff. And I know everybody's like Tom Brady's been to 87 Super Bowls, but the rest of that
Yeah.
team hasn't. And they
Right.
didn't I guess in the best case scenario, they expected to be here, but this wasn't a Bucks team. It was a Super Bowl team until Tom Brady got there. Even halfway through the season, you wouldn't have expected this. So I'm interested to see how the Bucks come out, like kind of you said, like, are they rattled? How does the defense play? Are they jumping stuff? Or are they being overly cautious? Because it would be one or the other. If you're a
Hmm.
player and you're playing kind of tight, either you could be too jumpy and you want to make that big play and you bite on a double move, or you're too afraid of giving up the big play to Tyreek Hill and he's just going to do out like 6-yard hooks the whole time.
Right.
And so I'm interested to see how the Chiefs try and test some of those corners early and figure out how they're going to do that. But the genius and those two guys with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes seeing the game the same way, that beautiful mind meld that they've got going on. I'm excited to see, like I said, that second quarter when they start kicking it into gear and see what the Bucks can try to do this time.
So you mentioned it already with the Chiefs being back in this game, and Tom Brady on that side has been to several Super Bowls. Gronk himself has been to several Super Bowls as well, just because he's been associated with Tom Brady, so that helps. But do you think that the Chiefs have an advantage being in this game so recently, and a lot of these guys being in this game, or do you think the circumstance kind of negates that advantage that it would have?
I think there's still going to be an advantage because the amount of adrenaline that's going through you. I think anyone who's played sports at a high level, that you get that adrenaline. It's hard. You can't replicate that of how to control your muscle memory when you can't feel your body because you have so much adrenaline
Right.
going through you. So I think in that way the Chiefs have an advantage. But kind of like what I was just saying, I wish in some ways they had done all the media and the media night and all that stuff, because then it becomes about so much more other than the game. And Andy Reid is so good at keeping those guys locked in on their job and what they're there to do that I'm not worried about the Chiefs getting distracted in that way. And not that we're not giving credit to the Bucs in doing that, but the Chiefs have gone through it and they've been on top of it. And I think the most impressive thing in sports recently is what the Chiefs did this year, because it would have been really easy in a COVID environment for all those players. Like, hey, we won a Super Bowl, all this crap's going on. Let's just take it easy, have a lot more COVID issues than they did while they're taking everyone's best shot. So I think it's crazy impressive what they've done. And yeah, it's going to feel a little weird with them just traveling down, the day before a game, just treating it like a regular road game, knowing what the hoopla was down in Miami last year is just a mess for not a big area and a lot of people. Honestly, I spent 80% of my time in Ubers down there, Tucker.
Yeah.
It sounds like it was always awesome. You're on the beach, you're doing cool stuff. I spent all my time sitting in Ubers on my laptop trying to grind out content for Chiefs Kingdom because there were so many people and there's not that many roads to get around
Right.
South Beach. So.